Recording. All right, I want to make this full screen. This is our 12th lesson. Everyone seeing the screen? Make sure we are.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is our 12th lesson on the biblical flood, and we're in chapter 5 of my book. We're going to have, I think, 4 lessons in the book. I originally thought 3, but I got to modifying it and decided to delve into the giants in the Bible, which will be new material. I'm going to add it into chapter 5, I think. I'll either add it to chapter 5 or I'll make it an appendix. I'm not sure which. There are 6 Hebrew words that are applied to giants in the Hebrew Old Testament. We're going to look at all 6 of those words and then trace them through and give all the places where they're found. We're going to look at there was warfare between the giants and other people in the Bible. Okay. And we're going to try to deal with what the Bible says happened to the giants. And they've ceased to exist in this on this earth unless they're hidden somewhere in various places in the world in hiding. Again, let's go back to the atheistic ideas. Supposedly life evolved in Africa, and it came out of Africa and spread out to Europe. And then we have the Heidelberg men, and we have the in the Neander Valley, we have the Neanderthals, and they were supposedly a branch off humans. Then we have this other branch, Denosovans. They're called that because they were found, the first found evidence of it in Denosova cave in Siberia, southern Siberia. So that's how they got their name. And they found them in this cave, and they found them also in other places here. And they found them in Borneo and over here in Java. And they found them in the DNA for them in the Aborigines in Australia, and the people in the various places here in this Borneo. This is Borneo, and these islands out in here. They found the DNA for the Denosovans. They've taken the DNA of this and the ones they found in Tibet, which is a country on the south side of India, north side of India and south side of China, up in the mountains, Himalaya mountains. So they say they spread off, and we had a different group branched off here. Again, their times are all wet. They're wrong on all of this. And so I take the position that these people are nothing more than just descendants of Noah, and there was more genetic diversity at that time than there is now. And we're going to, another 1,000 years from now, if the Earth lasts that long, we're going to have less diversity in the genes because we're going to lose genetic diversity. It just goes downhill with time. The only thing that'll put new genetic information in is a mutation, and all of those are detrimental. So we have the Neanderthal and Denosovans. What they're not telling you on this chart here is they've now come up with several other groups that they think are branched off as well. They're not branches. All they are is just variations in the genes of Noah's descendants. So they've got new other groups to add to this. Are there questions or comments? And they're all doing all this with DNA. So we're going to look at the Denosovans. I say the genetic diversity was there in Noah's descendants. Some of them were tall, some short. We have the pygmies in Africa. We have a bunch of pygmies in Africa, and I started to put them in, but this gets too long as it is. And so they're variations. They're not mutations. They're just varied. Now, a dwarf is somebody who's got medical problems, but a pygmy is not. He's scaled to size. The size of his limbs, his arms and legs and so forth are the right size. A dwarf, his are not shaped right. They're not scaled right. So a dwarf is a problem, medical problem. A pygmy is not. He doesn't have medical problems with it. Now then, any questions? All right. This is kind of review what we had. Now, I want you to see something. We talked about the Heidelberg man, and it was only from a mandible. That's your lower jawbone. They reconstructed this. I want you to think about something. When you look at this model that they drew here, why did they draw it like it's broken and got little pieces left out of it? Wonder why they drew it that way. Anyone have any idea? Okay, I'm going to tell you what I think. I think they drew it that way to make people think they actually found this skull. That's a dirty secret. All they had is this lower jawbone, the mandible. All of this is reconstructed. Why didn't they reconstruct it in full shape like you would normally have a skull to be? Well, they had a piece broken out over here and up here. Well, they want you to think, and they don't want you to know their dirty little secret. This is all their imagination. Now, how did they get these up here? Because they said this is the Neanderthals, and they've got this ridge up here on their eyebrows. It sticks out a little bit. Okay, so they manufactured this and put it up here, but they're fooling you, and that they're slick. Because see, they have a piece broken off, and you think this was the full skull. Now, I might be unfair with them, but I don't think I'm being unfair. I think it's deceptive. Any questions or comments? All right. Now let's look at giants in the Bible. The scriptures speak of giant humans, and it's not a fairy tale. Okay. Going to look at the terms that are found in the Bible for giants. All right. Going to look at the lexical definitions from the Hebrew lexicons. All right. Rephaim. That's your Rephaim. Now, this thing messes up. Hebrew goes from right to left. And when I put it in my text, I had the space in here. But for some reason, when I put it on the PowerPoint, it pulled it out and butted this up against that parentheses. So I had to put in here, I had to put a period here. This period, and you're going to find it in all these Hebrew, it's not part of the Hebrew word. So I know that from anybody that reads Hebrew, I know that. I had to put it there, otherwise it would butt up against this parentheses. I just couldn't fix it. So I just worked with it, and I said, I'll do it that way, and I'll tell everybody what I've done. This is pronounced Rapha, and so this is, and it's an old race of giants going to Brown Driver Briggs Gesenius, page 952. Here's Strong's number, and I give you Strong's number because a lot of your study guides will use Strong's. They'll use Strong's here, number, and in their system. So H7497, that's your word. This word is found 18 times in the Hebrew Old Testament. We're going to look at all these passages as we develop this, but here are all the verses. Now, if you're looking at this on the internet, all you got to do is just stop it and pause it, and you can see them, okay? All right. Now, let's look at further. We have the Rephaim, and it's found 18 times. The Anakims, and this, again, this little period here, just to keep it separate. And this is the Anaki, pronounced across here. And it's long-necked or tall men, early giant people, according to Brown Driver Briggs Gesenius, page 778. Here's Strong's number again, so you can look it up. It's found 9 times in the New Testament. Again, we have all the places it's found. So you can study it on your own if you want to. You can pause it right here and just look at all these passages. I'm going to look at all of them anyhow. So we have Anak. Now notice here, we have Anakims and we have Anak. Now the him ending in he is plural. For instance, a cherub is one, a cherubim, see the M ending, I am, is plural, and that's plural. So this is the plural form of the word Anak. That's your Hebrew Anak, pronounced Anak. And that's long neck, tall men, early giant people. Again, one of them's plural, one singular. Okay. Here's Strong's number. This word's found 9 times, and here are the places it's found in the Hebrew Old Testament. Again, I think in this little study, we'll look at every single one of these passages. Okay. We have the Nephilim. And again, this is pronounced Nephel, and the heme ending is plural. And so Brown Driver Big 658. Properly, a feller, that is a bully or tyrant. Now, see, a feller in the United States is kind of a good old boy. But I think in Europe, in England, a feller is kind of a mean fella. He's kind of a bully or tyrant. And so a giant. This is the Nephilim. It's found twice in the Old Testament. It's in Genesis 6:4 and Numbers 13:33. This tells me something is going on here. It tells me right here that these people were actually causing trouble. They're part of the problem. And they were giant people, very large people. The King James Version renders this as giants, but the American Standard renders it as Nephilim. So they're translated differently in these two versions. Okay? All right. If you have questions anytime, just stop me. If there were no mutations before the flood, which is my contention, people were living to be nearly 1,000 years old. They couldn't have had very many mutations, if any. Then these were not mutated people or people with health problems, often linked to pituitary gland problems. It makes people big. Now, when the pituitary gland starts making your body grow, if you're a human, when a man gets about 20, 21, he reaches a point he quits growing. But if the pituitary gland kicks back in, it will cause not only your bones to grow, but it will cause your organs to grow. And it can make your heart muscles get thicker and they can't function as well, and you'll die earlier. So it creates some other problems. It's not necessarily a blessing to be that big. All right. And we have the Imam, and that's Imam, and that's pronounced Amim, and that's terrors or ancient inhabitants of Moab. Now, what this word is found right here in these 3 times, and it's early Canaanite or Moabitish tribe. The Moabites took over their land. I think, now you know Moabites are descendants of Lot, one of Lot's sons, and the Ammonites are descendants of his other son. And the Moabites and the Ammonites, I think early, his sons probably served God. They probably were faithful. We're going to see that God gave them this land and took it away from these giants and gave it to the Moabites and Ammonites. The scriptures tell us that. We'll see the scriptures. So I take it they were faithful to God at this time, and that God helped them. Might have just blessed them because of Lot being a good man. I think Lot was a good man. He made some bad choices, but I still think he was a good man. I suspect he'll probably be in heaven. And the Zamzumins, pronounced Zamzom, are said to be a name given to this group here by the Ammonites. This is the Rephaim. This is the Rephaim, all right, by the Ammonites who dispossessed them. So the Ammonites dispossessed them. The word's found in one time. It's in Deuteronomy 2:20. So we find it there. This is another name for them, but this is the Ammonite name. The Ammonites and the Moabites spoke of variation, probably of a Hebrew dialect, probably, because Lot and Abraham were certainly speaking the same language, and they were probably both speaking Hebrew. Probably the Hebrew got corrupted a bit, but over several hundred years, okay? We'll look at now some definitions from usage in the scripture. We see all these various words that are used. We need to look at all these passages and see what the Bible tells us about them. A lot of good information. When I studied this, I learned a bunch of things. The Nephilim were described as being quite large compared to the children of Israel. Now let's look at this in Numbers 13:33. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak. So now we've got not only the Nephilim, but we got the sons of Anak. Anak was a man who came out of Nephilim, who come of the Nephilim. So Anak came of the Nephilim. He's one of the Nephilim. And we were in our side as grasshoppers, and so we were in their side. So we were like grasshoppers to them. That's how we viewed them. They're so much bigger than us. Now, I can understand why the children of Israel became scared of those giants. If you didn't have God on your side, you can't beat them, okay? But they had already seen God's strength and power. They should have said, God is with us, like Joshua and Caleb said, okay? But again, that's another lesson in itself, okay, for other study. They were descendants of a man named Anak. We learned where they lived in Numbers 13:22. And they went up by the south, and came unto Hebron, and Ahimam, Shishai, and Telai, the children of Anak, were there. Now, Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. So they're telling us when it was built. So if you get the time when Zoan was built, you'll have the time when Hebron was built. All right, this is the town of Hebron, okay? Now, howbeit, the people that dwell in the land are strong, and the cities are fortified and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there, and they're giants. So we see the giants here, all right? There were Nephilim before the flood. Now let's go back to before the flood in Genesis 6:4. The Nephilim were in the earth in those days and also after them. Now notice the I am ending is plural. So there's a bunch of them, not just one or two. And they also after that. So after the flood, there were still Nephilim. And also after that, when the sons of men came unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same were the mighty men that were of old, the men of renown. So I would say here, I say the sons of God are righteous men. They're not angels. Angels didn't marry women. The daughters of men are women who are not righteous. They're not good women. And why did they choose them? Well, they chose them because they were fair. I believe it says here somewhere. And because they're good looking. That was their reason for choosing them. And so they chose the daughters of men. Now, with this, all right, and so this causes problems because you marry the wrong person and it's going to cause you troubles. If you have a good wife, you need to really be thankful for it, okay? A woman that has a good husband needs to be thankful. So you need to choose wisely if you're not married. Anaks, and this is Anak, and I made this a possessive case, probably one of the men whom the giants descendants were called Anakim. And the I am ending, it just makes it plural. It's Anak, plural, his descendants. The sons of Anakim, sons of the Anakim, were tall. Deuteronomy 9:2. A people great and tall, the sons of the Anakim, whom thou knowest, and of whom thou hast heard say, who shall stand before the son of Anak? So the Anakim are the sons or the descendants. Now, son in the Bible can mean a great-grandson or great-great-great-grandson. So David was the son of Abraham, in a sense. And the word son then can be used for a grandchild as well as what we think of an offspring. So I'm a descendant of my grandfather. I'm his son, okay? My father died when I was 18, and when I'd go see my grandpa, he lived nearly 100. And he called me son all the time. Whenever I was around him, he would call me son. Well, I was his son. I was his grandson, but in the sense he was using it the way the Bible uses the term. Father of Anak was Arba. And we get this in Joshua 14:15. Now, this might give us more information, but I haven't gone in and studied that more fully, okay? But you might want to dig into it a little more if you want to. In Joshua 14:15, now the name of Hebron before time was Kiriath Arba. So Arba is the name of the man that founded it, which Arba was the greatest man among the Anakim. And the land had rest from war. So Arba was a man, see? He was the greatest man among the giants. Okay. Kiriath Arba, the city's named after him. And unto Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, he gave a portion among the children of Judah. Now, wait a second. Caleb is one of the 12 spies, remember, and he was a good spy. He gave a good report. They all said it's a land flowing with milk and honey, but 10 of them said we can't take it, and the Caleb said we can't. Now, where did Caleb go? If you study Caleb some more, you'll find that Caleb went in among the giants when he's spying out the land. He was around the giants, and he said, I want the land that I've spied out. So he said, I want to take the giants on. And he's 80, I think 82 years old when he starts taking them on. And he whips them. He goes after them. So Caleb was a great man. In my judgment, he's one of the great men of the Bible. And to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, he gave a portion among the children of Judah, according to the commandment of Jehovah to Joshua, even Kiriath Arba. See, now remember Arba, Kiriath Arba was the city of that Arba. One of the fathers of the giants, which Arba was the father of Anak, which Arba was the father of Anak. The same is Hebron. So it's Hebron now. It was Kiriath Arba then. Caleb drove out the children of Anak, Joshua 15:14. And Caleb drove out the three sons of Anak. So there probably were three clans of them, three clans and three groups among this nation. And he names the three of them, Shishai, Hyman, and Talmai, children of Anak. So that's probably the clans, and those are the clan leaders of the groups. Drove them out. Now notice here, it doesn't say he killed them, but he drove them out. Interesting. So that means they're not dead. Okay, they're still around somewhere. Emim. Now, this is the name the Moabites gave to one tribe of the giants. We know there are at least two tribes of them, and we think there may be evidence of three tribes. So that would be a minimum of two tribes, possibly three. The tribe or nation of giants were conquered by the Elamites and their allies. This is in the time of Abraham, Genesis 14:5. Back now. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer of the kings that were with him, and the kings were with him, and smote the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Karnaim, and the Zuzim in Ham, and the Emim in Shabba Kiriathaim. Now, right here, we're going to see here the Rephaim, of course, they're giants, and the Zuzim may be the other one of the other tribes. Emim definitely were giants. We've got scripture for that already. So we'll see that here. The Emim were Rephaim, according to Deuteronomy 2. Deuteronomy 2, verses 10 through 11 says, the Emim dwelt therein aforetime, a people great and many, and tall as the Anakim. Now he's just told the children of Israel, you can't go take the land of the Moabites or the Ammonites, because God gave it to them. Don't get into their land and try to take it. I won't let you, because I gave it to them. The Emim dwelt therein in the land, a people great and many and tall as the Anakim. So they're not Anakim, but they're like the Anakim. They're tall and great. These also are counted Rephaim, so they're giants as the Anakim. So now we have the Emim that dwelt in the land where the Moabites are, and they are giants like the Anakim. But the Moabites call them Emim. So now that's two tribes of them, of the Rephaim. This means there are at least two tribes. Now that doesn't mean there's only two tribes. We just named two of the tribes. So that means there are at least two tribes. That's what we can say. The Anakim and the Emim. All right? They're both written. And then we have these Zumans. Let's go back and see this word here. And we go back one more. All right? And there's the right here, Zuzim. I'm not sure. I can't find any proof of it. This may be this other tribe. And if it is, we got a third tribe. And this is Zumans. That's the name the Ammonites gave to one tribe. And it sounds like the same word. I can't prove it, But if that's true, then that's at least three tribes. The Zamzummans were Rephaim, according to Deuteronomy 2, 20 through 21. That also is accounted a land of Rephaim, of the giants, see. Rephaim dwelt therein aforetime, but the Ammonites called them Zamzummim. So now we may have at least three tribes. We still have two for sure. I think we have three tribes here of giants, and they dwelt in this land. And the Deuteronomy 2:21, a people great and many and tall as the Anakim, but Jehovah destroyed them before them, and they succeeded them and dwelt in their stead. So this is Deuteronomy 2:20. Let's go back to 20. Who's he talking about? It's the Ammonites. The Ammonites drove out the Rephaim. If you read verses 20 and 21, let's read it again. That also is kind of the land of Rephaim, of the giants. Rephaim dwelt therein aforetime, but the Ammonites called them Zamzummim. A people great and many and tall as the Anakim, but Jehovah destroyed them before them. So he destroyed them before the Ammonites, and they succeeded them and dwelt in their stead. So God apparently helped them, just like he did Israel, to take the land of these people. Now, he only let them take the land because the people were evil. The iniquity was full, like the iniquity of the Amorites was full, and then Abraham's descendants could take the land. And God didn't do that just because he wanted his people to have the land. He took the land. God gave the land to them because the inhabitants were evil. Any questions or comments? So I think that's the third tribe, what I can conclude. They were tall like the Anakim, right up here. Great, many, and tall as the Anakim. But the Lord destroyed them before the Ammonites. I think the Ammonites and Moabites originally were faithful to God, and they just went into corruption. Israel and Judah did the same thing, didn't they? They got corrupt. And so I think that's what happened. It's possible that this is the third tribe of giants, Anakim, Emim, and Zamzummims. I think it is, but I can't prove it for sure, okay? Might be that the Emim and the Zamzummims are the same people. That's the only thing I can come up with. I know there's two. It appears there's three tribes, okay? Warfare between the giants and other people now. They had warfare. Now, if we go back to Genesis 6, we see they were tyrants. The Elamites and their allies defeated the giants. This is in Genesis 14:5. They defeated the Rephaim of the giants in Ashtoreth, Karnaim. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him. That's of Mesopotamia. And they smote the Rephaim in Ashtoreth, Karnaim, and Zamzum and Ham. See, this is Zamzum and Ham. That almost sounds like the people of the other group. Maybe this is the Jewish pronunciation. The other one is the Ammonites pronunciation, Moabites. In Ham and Emim and Shavez, Kiriathaim. All right. So we have here the Rephaim. He smote them at Emim in this place here. Now this is the Moabites. I think this is the Zamzum is probably the Hebrew pronunciation from Zamzumim. And that's probably the same group, okay? Probably then three different tribes. They also defeated the Emim and Shavez, Kiriathaim. So this happened in the days of Abraham now, see, Genesis 14. Now, the Emim were also Rephaim. We've already seen this. The Emim dwelt therein aforetime, a people great and many and tall as the Anakim, and these also were accounted Rephaim as the Anakim, but the Moabites call them Emim. So they call them Emim. That's what they call them. Okay? This was the Moabite name for this tribe of giants. All right. The Ammonites destroyed the Rephaim. We've already seen that. That also is accounted the land of Rephaim. The Rephaim dwelt therein aforetime, but the Ammonites called them Zamzummim. A people great and many and tall as the Anakim, but Jehovah destroyed them before them, and they succeeded them and dwelt in their stead, dwelt in their place. Apparently God was with the Ammonites when he conquered them. They took the land of the giants, the Rephaim, and no doubt because Rephaim were wicked. Now, the children of Israel defeated several groups of giants as well. Now, then let's see here. Back in Genesis 15:20, God promised them to give the land of the giants, the Rephaim, to Abraham's descendants. Abraham, I want to give you the land of these giants. Your descendants are going to have this land. In Genesis 15:20, and the Hittite and the Perizzite and the Rephaim. That's the giants. Now remember, the Rephaim is a generic term for all the giants, which of course we know there's at least 2 tribes, maybe 3, probably 3 tribes. And of course, his descendants didn't get all of the tribes, didn't get all those lands, because lost descendants got some of it. Okay. Og, king of Bashan, was defeated. Now, where did Og come from? Well, let's see. We'll see where he's a Rephaim. Then we turned and went up the way to Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us, he and all his people, in the battle in Edrei. All right. Deuteronomy 3:2 says 3:1. Let's look at 3:2. And Jehovah said unto me, fear him not. Don't be afraid. He's a giant, I know, but don't be afraid of him. For I have delivered him and all his people and his land into thy hand. Thou shalt do unto him as thou didst unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt at Heshbon. So Jehovah our God delivered into our hand Og, also the king of Bashan, and all his people. We smote them until none were left to him remaining. So we wiped them out. So they killed them all, apparently. And so there's not any left. And where did these people come from? Well, they're remnant of the Rephaim. Look at here in this passage. In verse 11, I read over it quickly, but let's see it. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of the Rephaim. So that was the Rephaim, probably the ones that the kings of the Midianites of Mesopotamia come over in Genesis 14 and destroyed. There was a remnant that escaped them. And so they formed another little nation over there, a little kingdom. And behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. Is it not in Arba of the children of Ammon? So the Ammonites got his bedstead, and their 9 cubits was the length thereof. Now, a cubit is from the elbow to the end of the middle finger. It's about 18 inches for me. And I've measured mine, it's 18 inches. And I figure it's about 1.5 foot, 18 inches. Now, for anybody in metric, 1 inch is about 2.54 centimeters. So that's your conversion. If you want to multiply by 2.54, 18, you'll figure out how many centimeters a cubit is. So right here, it is 9 cubits, which will be 9 times 1.5. That's you take 9 plus 4.5 more. That's how long his feet. 9 feet plus 4, it's 13.5 feet long his bed is. I think he was a big fella. I really think he was big. 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of his bed, or his bed to sleep on. That's the cubit of a man. So he was one big fella. That's Og, king of Bashan. All right, he remained the remnant of the Rephaim, probably the remnant that was left, maybe the remnant that was left when the children of the Ammonites overrun them. And it's possible that there was a remnant left when the people from Mesopotamia in Genesis 14. And I'm not sure the Moabites might have conquered some of them too, but there's a remnant left of them. Okay, but now they're gone. All right. This appears to be a remnant of the Rephaim that were left by the Edomites and their allies, possibly by the Moabites as well, and the Ammonites. The half tribe of Manasseh, remember Manasseh, half of the tribe stayed on the east bank and the other half of the tribe went to the west bank, was given the kingdom of Og. And the rest of Gilead and all Bashan, the kingdom of Og, gave I unto the half tribe of Manasseh. All the region of Argob, even all Bashan. The same is called the land of Rephaim, the land of the giants. Okay? The boundaries of Og's kingdom, we'll not look at them here, are given in Joshua 12, 4 through 5. We won't look at that in time with it. Israel drove out Og. Joshua tells us all the kingdom of Og and Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth in Edrei, the same was left of the remnant of the Rephaim. For these did Moses smite and drove them out. Now, notice here, he didn't just kill all of them. Now we learn Joshua tells us some of them fled and got away. So there's some of them that didn't die. So now, when we read it earlier, we got the impression that they were all killed. He smote them. But that doesn't mean he killed all of them, because we find out here some of them were fled and got away. So they got away when they were losing the battle. Some were smitten, and some were driven out. Apparently, a remnant did escape. So these giants now escaped somewhere. Where they went, we don't know. All right? Questions so far? Caleb drove out the sons of Anak. Remember, there's at least 2 tribes, and I think 3 tribes. And they gave Hebron unto Caleb, as Moses had spoken, and he drove out thence the 3 sons of Anak, probably three clans of the sons of Anak. Since they were driven out, see, now he drove them out, they still existed, so they weren't all dead. And I'm no doubt he killed a bunch of them, but some of them got away. They just fled when they saw they were losing the battle. They run away. We do not know where they fled to. The passage doesn't tell us. Now, I know someone's going to say, Marion, you're not supposed to end a sentence with a preposition, but it's the best way I can word it here. Okay, sorry about that. Judah destroyed the Anakim, Joshua 11:21. Joshua came at that time and cut off the Anakim from the hill country, from Hebron, from Debir, from Anab, and from all the hill country of Judah, from all the hill country of Israel. Joshua utterly destroyed them with their cities. So he destroyed them. Now, does that mean he killed all of them? Not necessarily, because in Joshua 11:22, there was a remnant that did escape. There was none of the Anakim left in the land of the children of Israel, say, only in Gaza. Some of them fled away and got over to the Philistines. They went and joined to the Philistines. So the Philistines were probably glad to have them to use them in their warfare, okay? And Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod did some remain. So a few got away and fled over there. So he destroyed them, but their rulership was destroyed, but some of them did escape. This is almost certainly where Goliath comes from. I'm satisfied. Remember, Goliath was from Gath, Goliath of Gath. He was probably an Anakim, a son of Anak, descendant of Anak. Okay? Goliath was from Gath of the Philistines, 1 Samuel 17:4. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. Now, a cubit is a length from an elbow to the end of the middle finger, about 18 inches for me. And a span is the width of a hand. Now, with my cubit and my hand breadth, the width of my hand, that means Goliath was 9 foot and 9 inches tall. If he'd have been 3 inches taller, he'd have been 10 foot tall. He was a big fella. He was one big fella. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, we're not going to spend more time on Goliath. David conquered him because David trusted God. Right? Goliath, possibly a family name. I think it may be a family name. Had 4 sons. These 4 were born to the giant in Gath, and they fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his servants. Now, the atheist will say, well, it said David killed this man, and it said someone else killed him. Well, the truth is, I think Goliath is a family name, and so we see him killing Goliath and others killing Goliath, and they're killing the sons of Goliath is who they're killing. This man that David killed. Right? One of the giants had polydactyly. What that means, he has more than 5 fingers on his hand, or if you count the thumb as a finger. There was again war at Gath. There was a man of great stature and had on every head 6 fingers, and on every foot 6 toes, 4 and 20 in number. And he also was born to the giant, so he was a descendant of the giant. So he had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. Okay, and that's this. You can look this up on the internet and find information about it. There are people that are born that way. Okay, where did the remnant of the giants that were driven out immigrate to? Where'd they go? We know some of them went to the Philistines, Joshua 11:22. There was none of the Anakim left in the land of the children of Israel, only in Gaza, in Gath and in Ashdod did some remain. So we have them going to all of these cities and living. Okay. Now, it's possible that the Nephilims were either remnants or relatives of the giants, because apparently some of them were large. The Nephilims all are named after a cave in Siberia, the Nosova Cave. We don't know much more about them. The Heidelberg man was supposed to be a giant. The word heroic was used, and we had a quote in our last lesson from a geology book, which is, if you look it up in English, it can mean a giant. And so he's heroic, and he's quite large. And he was supposed to be a Neanderthal. So the Neanderthals had gigantism among them, and apparently the Denisovans also have gigantism among them. Now, in most humans, the gene that produces body hair is switched off. Babies frequently are born pretty hairy. It's real fine hair, and then it falls out after a month or 2 or 3 months. It falls out and goes away. And then their body just doesn't produce more hair on the body. Now, I have hair on my body. You can't see it, but it's about the color of my skin, but I don't have that much hair. But our bodies have switched off that. This gene is present. It's just switched off in most humans. Now, God apparently made us with the ability of that gene to be switched off or switched on. And if the gene is not switched off, the person has hypertrichosis. And here's what they look like. It's possible, and they're hairy all over. It's possible that some races were hairy. All right? And here's what a man looks like from Mexico that has this. And he has this, and his genes is switched on, and he has hair all over his body. All right? Okay, so that's what this looks like. Let me point out here, if this capability exists, it's possible there may have been races of people that look like that. It's entirely possible. Now, I don't want to get into Bigfoot and all that, but I don't see any evidence Bigfoot exists. But if they find something like Bigfoot and they find out it's human, it's just probably it's a human with this characteristic. It may be, if they're giants, they may have fled away because the smaller people were killing them, and that they fled into the wildernesses. I don't know, and I'm not saying Bigfoot exists. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, abominable snowman, Yeti, and so forth, but whatever you want to call them. It's possible that giants were hairy. It's entirely possible. I don't see any evidence for them, so I'm not claiming they exist. But if they do find them, it's not going to disturb me in the least. This is a possible explanation. Right? Scriptures speak of antediluvian giants before the flood, giants, and I don't believe there was any mutations at that time. Therefore, the genes of Noah's descendants had a wide range of heights in them, giants and pygmies. Now, I didn't get into the pygmies, but they're pygmies, and a pygmy is not a dwarf. A dwarf is limbs are not formed right; they're not proportional. A pygmy, his limbs are in the right proportion; they're just short. A short person with their limbs in the right proportion. And what we have here is the genes of Noah's descendants had a wide range of heights in them. We see pygmies in Africa right now. They are being very much abused by the taller people. The pygmies have been. And they're about to cease to exist as a group of people. They've been made slaves of other people. Bigger people have enslaved them. I can see this happening before the flood in Genesis 6. And this happened. And the small people eventually will gang up on and rebel. And the pygmies just aren't able to do it because there are not enough numbers of them to rebel against them. They're way outnumbered in Africa. There are pygmies in other parts of the world as well, not just Africa. So the height, the gene for all kinds of heights is in the Noah's descendants, from pygmies up to giants. Some giants were tyrants or bullies, and warfare ensued because their actions, many of them were evil. And so when the smaller people ganged up on them, they could kill them. And that's what we see here. We see them driving them out. Are there questions? Anyone have questions?